When things freeze up outside your house, that's not usually anything to worry about, but if you've got a pipe that freezes inside, you've got a big problem on your hands. But in this video, I'm going to show you an easy way to prevent any pipe from freezing that you can do yourself, and it's surprisingly cheap. Pipes can freeze up for all different types of reasons. If you're in a manufactured or a mobile home, or you've got an older house that has a lot of drafts, that cold air can reach a pipe, and that's what can cause you the issues. You can certainly try to put insulation around a pipe, but sometimes that's just not going to be enough. So an easy way to solve the problem permanently is to use a product called heat tape. Heat tape's been around for a long time, but this is nothing like the old versions. And to install this stuff, you only need two other items. You've got to get yourself some good quality electrical tape, along with some fiberglass insulation. Now this is pipe wrap insulation. It's a 1/2 inch thick by 3 inches across. And the install method I'm going to show you here is the only way you're supposed to do it per the directions and per most fire departments. You're going to see that this method is very different than the way they used to do it in the old days. A bunch of different companies make these tapes, but they all work in pretty much the same way. On one end they've got an electric cord, and then they'll have a device like this. Now that black disc is actually a thermostat, and that's going to sense when the temperature goes below about 38 degrees, and then it's going to allow electricity to go into that black cable. Now that black cord is kind of like what you have an electric heating blanket, and it's going to get slightly warm, just enough heat to keep your pipe from freezing up. And these come in all different lengths. The one I have here is about 6 foot, but they go all the way up to about 50 feet. And they're also pre-made and just plug and play. You don't have to cut any wires or do any type of soldering. And to show you how it works, I took one of these tapes outside. It's about 30 degrees, and I plugged it into one of these power stations and used my thermal scanner. And you can see that after a few minutes, that tape heated up to about 72 degrees, and that's more than enough heat to keep any pipe from freezing. And this was a 25-foot long tape, and it only uses about 60 watts when it's running. But as soon as the temperature outside warms up, that thermostat will automatically shut off, and you won't be using any power at all. Always read your directions, but the kit I got says it can work on copper pipes or plastic. And you probably already have an idea of what pipe in your house might freeze, and start the install by placing the thermostat right against your pipe. Then you want to secure it using some electrical tape. And you want to make sure to put a bunch of wraps of this tape because you don't want that thermostat moving at all, and you don't want any air gaps between that black disc and the pipe. In the old days, people used to use nylon ties for this and to secure the wire, but that was part of the reason that they were having fires. Those nylon ties were so tight that when you applied the heat, they were actually melting into the device. And every manufacturer that I looked at now recommends using electrical tape just like this for the install. And now we just need to attach the wire to the rest of the pipe. You're going to run that straight underneath the pipe along the bottom. You're doing that so that the heat will rise through the pipe, and you're going to want to tape it about every 6 inches. And you're going to have things that get in the way along the run. Could be a valve or maybe a pipe hanger like this, and you'll just want to run that wire along them. It's okay to have that wire touch a valve or something else. Once you've finished attaching the wire, take a second to look it over. Now here I made a mistake, and you can see there's a huge gap right after the thermostat. And if you've got something like this, you want to take an extra second to put on some more tape to keep it as tight as possible. The instructions say that once you've got this wire installed, you could call the job done, but they talk about if you have a really cold climate, you're going to want to put some insulation over the wire. And since you probably wouldn't be using one of these heating kits if you weren't in a cold climate, I think everybody's going to be putting this insulation on when they're done. Now using this stuff is easy. You just unroll it kind of like toilet paper off the roll and wrap it around the pipe as best you can. And unlike using that electrical tape, you're not going to be able to shove that roll around the pipe, so you are going to have to tear it and just kind of break pieces off. But as you wrap it around, you're going to see that those pieces kind of stick together. To make sure it doesn't come off, you're going to want to use some more of that electric tape to wrap it around the insulation. But this time, you don't want to wrap it tightly, because if you compress that insulation too much, it's not really going to be able to do its job. And now with that insulation on, we've just got to plug it in. But as you can see here, most people aren't going to have an outlet close enough to where they want to plug that tape in. So just get some type of heavy-duty extension cord that'll let you reach the outlet that you want. And every kit that I looked at also requires that you use a GFCI protected outlet, or you've got to have a circuit that's protected by a GFCI breaker. You'll also notice at the end of the plug it's got a light. Now that light is just telling you that the power is on. It's not telling you if the thermostat's working or if the cord is generating heat. And it's really important if you're going to rely on one of these heating tapes that you check it at least once a year. You're going to start by making sure that light's on and it's getting power, but if you can, see if it's actually operating when it's cold and if that wire is creating a little bit of heat. But there's two other big mistakes that you don't want to make with this tape. The first is wrapping it around the pipe like this. Now this is confusing because this is how you used to install the tape in the old days. but unfortunately sometimes doing it this way the tape would move, or people would wrap the wire over itself, and what that did is it created heat spots, and ultimately the insulation would melt, and that was in fact the cause of many of the fires. The method I showed you along the bottom of the tape is the way the manufacturers recommend doing it now, and it's definitely going to be the safer option. And you might also be wondering, why did I bother with that fiberglass insulation? It's so much messier than just using the split pipe insulation you can get at stores. Well, the directions specifically say not to use that foam stuff, and that the 1/2-inch fiberglass insulation I showed you is the only approved way to install this wire for safety. And the reality is, pipe insulation isn't that exciting, but if you've got a frozen pipe that burst, your life is pretty much over for a while until you can get it fixed. If you've got other ideas on insulating your pipes, please comment below, and I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already for more videos coming up.